Small businesses are going under. Farmers are losing generational land. Construction companies are filing bankruptcy after 40 years. And the wildest part, the people getting hit the hardest are the same ones who voted for these policies. They kicked out their own workforce, cheered for tariffs they didn't understand, and now they're on camera begging for help. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
Nothing is better than being MAGA. Here in Florida, let me tell you what we're doing. You see, what happened was Ron DeSantis and all the MAGA legislator here, we kicked out all of the immigrant workforce. We made it clear that they weren't welcome here and kicked them out of the state. That's right, even some of us MAGA business owners voted to kick out our own workers, and now we cannot fill the work. Oh, but don't you worry, MAGA's on top of things, because right now our wonderful legislator is debating on loosening the child labor laws here, because our genius MAGA plan is to replace the immigrant workforce with our children, our Florida children. Doesn't that make perfect sense and just sound wonderful? The policy we support.
The sarcasm in her voice is chef's kiss right now. She's laying out the entire playbook. You vote to remove your workforce, then act shocked when nobody shows up to work. And now the solution is loosening child labor laws. We're literally speedrunning back to the 1800s. Your 10-year-old is going to be doing roofing in the Florida heat because you didn't think 2 steps ahead. This is what happens when you vote with your emotions instead of a calculator.
It's actually detrimental to us, but we pass it anyway. Now all the MAGA youth is going to be doing construction on your house. Doesn't that want to make you buy a house in Florida? It's not going to be insured, and it was built by a 10-year-old. What could go wrong?
Multiple different farmers across the United States are admitting that Donald Trump's tariffs are absolutely crippling them. If this continues, they're going to go bankrupt at rates we've never seen in American history. Listen to them.
Fertilizer and seed and diesel fuel, all of these things have just about tripled in price. And I'm selling my commodity for the same thing I was in the 80s. I've never seen anything like this. And it's all due to the president's tariffs.
And an Arkansas farmer is also pointing out that Donald Trump's tariffs are a direct cause of this, saying we produce 40% more agricultural products in this country than we can consume domestically. 1 in every 4 rows of soybeans goes abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought 0 soybeans and 0 new crop corn out of this country. We went from $12 billion to 0. The price for them doing their business has tripled, and their sales are plummeting drastically because other
From $12 billion in soybean exports to literally 0. That number should terrify everyone watching this. These farmers are selling crops at 1980s prices while paying 2025 costs. That equation only ends one way. And these aren't coastal elites complaining on social media. These are people who wake up at 4 a.m. and work the land with their bare hands. Generational farms that survived the Great Depression can't survive this. The saddest part is they genuinely believed these policies would protect them. Instead, it painted a giant target on their backs.
countries aren't importing our crops anymore. You know it's not good when they're being forced to sell their crops at 1980s prices while paying 2025's cost. The math doesn't add up. They're going to go out of business. Farmers are losing their farms across this country. Generational livelihoods are on the line, and rural communities are collapsing at levels we've never seen before, all because of Donald Trump's tariffs. And these aren't just Democratic talking points. These are words coming directly from the farmers themselves.
So small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut down.
And many businesses are being helped.
Are you considering tariff relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business?
This guy built a $1 million e-com product, and a single U.S. tariff destroyed it overnight. So he imported gym equipment from China. Business was great, booming. His customers were happy. Then bam, a 20% tariff hit. That alone added thousands. What's the point? It jumped to 145%. That means for every $1 of his product, he pays $1.45 for taxes. Completely wiped his profit. And it's not just
145% for every $1 of product he pays. $1.45 just in taxes. That's like ordering a meal and the service charge costs more than the food itself. He built this from nothing, $1 million business, happy customers, the whole American dream package, and one policy decision at midnight erased everything overnight. You can't just snap your fingers and move manufacturing domestically. That takes years and billions in infrastructure. In the meantime, everyone stuck in the middle is just going broke quietly, exactly like he said.
him. U.S. businesses are getting destroyed. China makes up 30% of the world's manufacturing. You can't ignore that unless you want to go broke quietly. My trading community is built for situations like this. When tariffs, crashes, global chaos destroys business, we have you see where the money's next. You get direct access to analysts, including a former investment banker in Hong Kong. Join us before your portfolio gets hit like his product. Link in the profile.
I voted for Trump because I thought he was funny. Boom! No healthcare. Boom! No more school. Boom! No more life, dude. Also be the same type of people be like, I didn't know he was gonna do this. I didn't know it was gonna be me. I didn't think these policies were gonna affect me.
Trump's at a rally in North Carolina, and he's said a couple of things that I'm sure will really, really turn the voter around. The first thing that he said was that he is going to impose a 25% tariff on all goods that come into the United States. He said, and I quote, that will work 100% of the time. And he said the reason why he hadn't told anybody his plan is because he didn't want Kamala, who works every other day. He's been working 62 days in a row. Kamala takes every other day off, would steal his idea and then use it for herself if she became president. So that's why he wanted to wait until today to announce his tariff plan. Now, I used to own a small business, a couple of small businesses in my life. And let me tell you something about a small business. You have what's called cost of goods, which is really, depending upon your kind of business, cost of goods can make or break you. If you have a lot of cost of goods and very small margins, it's very hard to make any money in a small business. So like, for example, I had an IT business. I made no money on things like screen repairs, hard drives. These sorts of things were low margins for me because I had to pay for cost of goods. So when hard drive costs go up, I have to pay more, which means then I have to charge more in order to get even the smallest of a margin out. So for him to tariff everything is going to go back to the small business, which means your cost of goods will go up if in fact...
See, this is the explanation that every single person needs to hear. Cost of goods go up, your prices go up, customers leave, business closes. It's a 4-step funeral for your livelihood. He ran an IT shop, so he knows what thin margins feel like when your profit on a screen repair is already $5 and suddenly your parts cost doubles. You're not absorbing that, you're passing it on, and when you pass it on, people just stop coming in. The big corporations can eat losses for years. They have war chests and investors and offshore accounts. But that local repair shop, that family restaurant, that little Etsy store barely making rent, they don't survive month 2 of this. And those are the businesses that actually make communities function. Those are your neighbors, your cousins, your friends, and they're the ones getting sacrificed first.
He puts that tax on top of it. So thanks, Trump, for destroying small businesses.
It's really not funny to see the amount of Trump supporters who are coming out making viral videos about how they're betrayed by Donald Trump. Their stocks are going down, prices are going up, but they still don't regret voting for Trump over Kamala Harris.
I did vote for Mr. Trump. Deporting the criminals is a great policy. Foundations are poured, ready to go, and we can't even start the construction on them. But we voted for the American dream, and unfortunately, right now, we're not seeing that.
For months, federal agents have been sweeping up workers at construction sites in South Texas.
ICE has raided us anywhere between 10 to 15 times throughout different subdivisions.
Now, work sites across the Rio Grande Valley have ground to a halt. And that's got some Trump supporters in this midterm battleground changing their minds.
These people would just show up to our job sites with no warrants, taking all our workers, even the workers with proper documentation.
Many who work in the construction industry here told us they largely rely on immigrant workers, some of whom are undocumented. DHS did not respond to the Times' request for comment, but in a previous statement, it said these raids protect the nation's workforce.
I've supported Mr. Trump in every election that he's been a part of. We just never thought that this would come and affect us in the construction industry, but most importantly, affect our economy here in South Texas.
We are seeing a reduction of almost 60% of our volume on the residential side of our business. We applied for bankruptcy in December.
We saw 40 years in business and never once laid off a single employee until now. Let that sink in. This company survived recessions, housing crashes, pandemics, everything life threw at it for 4 decades. $5.3 million in lost sales, 60% volume reduction, forced layoffs for the first time ever, bankruptcy filed in December. A project that should have taken 1 year now takes 3. Banks are pulling back, workers are hiding, entire communities are freezing up in fear. And this man still went to Washington, D.C. and politely asked for help. And they basically told him, if your site ain't fenced, we're coming in without a warrant, so now he's spending money. He doesn't have building fences around construction sites just to protect workers from the government. That's not policy, that's persecution.
Drop in sales of about $5.3 million. For 40 years, we had never laid anybody off, and until this happened, we were forced to.
And beyond construction, local businesses say fear is keeping shoppers at home.
And there's been a lot of loss of sales because of that. It killed us this year.
Construction is one of the main pillars to the economy here. Everybody's hurting.
In the Rio Grande Valley, 2 of President Trump's top priorities, the economy and mass deportation, are colliding as ICE raids upend the construction industry. And at a parade along the U.S.-Mexico border, Democrats are trying to capitalize on voters' frustration.
The economic implications are huge. People who voted for Trump are no longer doing it because they can't afford to do it anymore.
For decades, the Rio Grande Valley, where more than 80% of the population is Latino, reliably voted for Democrats. Then in 2024, voters here swung further toward President Trump than almost anywhere else in the country.
You know, I think Democrats stopped showing up here. They took this community for granted, and so when Republican politicians showed up and made big promises, people took a chance. A year later, we're seeing those promises weren't kept.
So we were going to build 196 apartments here in a year, but because of all the ICE raids and all the enforcements that we've been seeing, it's going to take us 3 years now to go ahead and finish this development.
County property records show these slowdowns have spread throughout the industry, as banks that lend to home builders report fewer transactions.
We were seeing certain banks that did that kind of lending suddenly have much slower activity. Those numbers were declining about 30 to 40%. We weren't sure why exactly, and I started asking some of these lenders, what is going on? We found out that they were struggling to keep their people on the jobs because of ICE.
In February, Mario requested a meeting with ICE through his congressional representatives. He went to Washington, D.C. with a few other builders and pleaded with them to ease up on job sites in South Texas.
It basically told us that if a construction site is not fenced in, it's considered public property, and that's why they don't have to show a warrant. So we started fencing in all our properties.
He said that after the meeting, ICE activity at job sites did decline, but the damage had already been done.
I hope they realize that this is really, really affecting us, and it's
affecting the way we feel towards the administration. Has to be the most diplomatic way anyone has ever said, I got absolutely played. This man lost everything, and he's still being polite about it. That's either incredible composure or the deepest stage of denial I've ever witnessed. Here's what I need everyone watching to understand. Loyalty to any politician should never come before loyalty to your own family, your own livelihood, your own survival. When the policy is actively destroying your life, speaking up isn't betrayal, it's common sense. Waiting until you're bankrupt to start asking questions is about 4 years too late.
affecting the way that we feel towards the administration.
Farmers losing land that's been in their family for generations. Construction companies collapsing after 4 decades. Small businesses watching their costs explode overnight. And the thread connecting all of it is people who didn't read the fine print on policies they cheered for. This isn't about political sides. This is about math versus feelings, and math never loses. So here's my question for you. How much does someone have to lose before they admit they were wrong? And is there a point where loyalty becomes self-destruction? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear it. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.